Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roaming History Podcast. I'm your host, Logan Thomas. I hope you're doing well. It is the first week of December 2024. And whether or not you celebrate Christmas, this has always been a special time of year to me and to a lot of other people. I'm not saying anything unusual by saying that. But as a historian, I always find myself getting a little more nostalgic during this time of year. Stories get a little bit more emotional. I get a little more misty when I start hearing stories. And I've always been fascinated. I guess that's why I became a military historian. But I've always been fascinated by wartime during Christmas. I don't really know why. I don't have a reason for that. But I think one of the reasons may be a song that I'm sure many of you have heard of. It is called I'll Be Home for Christmas. And it's been covered probably hundreds of times by professional musicians, singers. But the one that everyone usually associates with this is Bing Crosby. Now, I don't know if you have ever heard the lyrics. I know you've heard the song. But the lyrics go like this. I'll be home for Christmas. You can plan on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. I'll be home for Christmas. You can plan on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents on the tree. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. Now, you may be wondering why I chose to read you the lyrics of a Christmas song. Of course, it's December is a big reason. But another reason, I don't know if a lot of people today know the story behind this song. And it's one of the reasons I cannot hear this song on the radio without getting very emotional. In fact, sometimes I'll change the channel or the station if it comes on the radio when I'm driving, just because I'll get very emotional. And the reason is the song came out in the 1940s, 1943 to be more precise. And it was, of course, a hit, but if you know what was going on in 1943, then you may know why this is a very difficult song to hear. It came out in 1943 when millions of Americans and people around the world were involved in the Second World War. And the song is from the perspective of a soldier. And those lyrics that I just read you, I want you to imagine a soldier being away from home and wishing they could be at home for Christmas. And the last line of the song is, I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. Now, the amazing thing about this song is that a lot of soldiers, when they signed up to fight in World War II, or when they were drafted to fight in World War II, for the United States, they were not in the war for a certain amount of time. They were in the war until the war was over. So there was no guarantee you were going home. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because my parents' generation, a lot of their friends and family were drafted to fight in the Vietnam conflict for the United States military. And they were drafted to fight for a year. They would have a year tour in Vietnam. And the difference is in World War II, you were in the war until the war was over or you were wounded and could no longer continue. So the reason this song breaks my heart is because the person, imagine being in war and not knowing if you're going to survive, and not knowing when you're ever going to come home. And it's with that, on that note, that I would like to kind of start this discussion. This is going to be a little bit of a different episode for the Roaming History Podcast, because I'd like to just read a couple of letters, because it's something that's always kind of broken my heart to think of people in wartime writing letters home and what that could have meant, or would have meant to a mother, for example, getting a letter from their son who is currently fighting in a war. So it's something that I've always found very interesting. And now when you hear "I'll be home for Christmas," I bet you're going to hear it or think about it in a much different way than you ever have before. There's a book that has always had a special place on my bookshelf called Dear America, Letters Home from Vietnam. It is an incredible book that kind of shows you the importance of a soldier or a soldier placed on letters. And I'm going to read you a couple of letters from that book and give you an idea of what it may have meant. I mean, we are very spoiled nowadays in terms of instant communication. But imagine an era where you waited for an actually handwritten note, and you may understand a little bit. Because I mean, I have friends that if they text me and I don't text them back, they'll say, "What happened?" Like if I don't text them back, and like within minutes, they'll think something happened to me. They'll think something's wrong, and I want you to imagine waiting for months to get a response. And you will probably understand a little bit about what it is to be waiting for a letter, because we get very impatient now, waiting just minutes for a response on a text. And imagine if your loved one went overseas to fight in a war, and they are risking their life every day, and you're waiting months to get a letter back from them. I'll give you a great example. We'll start off with a letter from Captain Joseph Bush, Jr., and this is a letter home to his wife on June 25th, 1968. Darling, believe me, I try my best not to skip a day in writing to you. If my mail means as much to you as yours does to me, then I know how you feel when the mailbox is empty. Whether or not I get a letter determines if it's going to be a good day or not. Now that letter kind of says everything that I was trying to say. That's why I wanted to start off with that one. This is the next letter I wanted to read was from Anne Bramson, and this is a letter to her son who was serving in Vietnam on August 9th, 1970. Please, my son, try to write as often as you can. Even just a few words from you will help ease my tension and my mind. Every day I look for mail from you, and every day I don't receive any is a disappointment. I know when you are out you cannot write, but yet I keep looking for word from you. Now those two letters, the one from Captain Bush and Anne Bramson, those two letters illustrate what I was trying to tell you about letters and how much it meant to people to receive a letter during wartime. And imagine the agony of waiting for a letter from home. This next letter, I'm going to try to get through it. It's a very heavy letter. It's from a Sergeant George Olson. He was writing a letter to Rosemary, a college friend at St. John's University, which was then in Brooklyn, New York. Olson had arrived in country, is what they called it when you arrived in Vietnam, in August 1969. And he was a ranger with Company G, 75th Infantry. And he was 23 years old when he was writing this next letter. Read, it was nice to hear from someone for a change. Believe it or not, yours was the first letter I got here in Nam, so it's something of a landmark. Not that I'm going to pull one of those lonely soldier away from home through no wish of my own kinds of crap, because I'm where I want to be, quite voluntarily doing what I think is right, and I'm far from being homesick. Still, it's nice to get mail. I guess I really am human, sometimes. Right now I'm sitting in a bunker on a radio relay station about 15 miles inland from Chu Lai, in the middle of two NVA regiments which are scattered in and around the surrounding area. I'm going to pause the letter right here and just tell you NVA stands for North Vietnamese Army, in case you were unaware, and that is who the United States was fighting during the Vietnam conflict, along with the Viet Cong, that were people that lived in South Vietnam at the time. So I'm going to continue the letter. So, in the middle of two NVA regiments which are scattered in and around the surrounding area. I'm up here with about 15 other Rangers on the highest hill, maintaining radio contact with our teams on the other side of the mountains. It's a bit of a hairy proposition as the hill is expected to be overrun soon. I've been here over a month and have been in training for this unit ever since getting to Chu Lai. Right now, I'm on my first combat operation, which is more or less my graduation exercise, as when I come off this hill, I officially graduate as a Ranger, LRRP, Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol. This unit is about as different from a normal grunt unit as an M16 is from a blunderbuss, and it would probably shock your delicate little peace and prayers type soul to know half the stuff we do. I'm not being sarcastic because all little girls should be like that, but the only reason they can be is because they haven't seen anything like what goes on over here and haven't been exposed to a lot of what really goes on in this world, which is as it should be, and I hope that never changes. What we do is wage Charlie's war against Charlie and play holy hell with the Geneva Convention doing it. We operate from 6 to 12-man teams, with 6 being the norm and 12 the absolute maximum, deep inside NVA-controlled territory with no friendlies for miles around. Operations range from hunter-killer ambushes to recon patrols to POW snatches. One team of 8 actually pulled off an ambush in the middle of an NVA base camp and got away with it. Charlie doesn't like this company, and many men in it are known by the name to the VC NVA, who have actually put prices on their heads. Charlie'd give a lot to get his hands on some of us, but so far he's had no luck, as no man from Company G Rangers has ever surrendered. I'm proud of the unit, and it looks like I'm going to get into it. I started with 20 men, and 10 of us will graduate. The course is 3 weeks and is really brutal. When people think of the Army, they think of men being beaten by sergeants, force-marched brutality, and hell in general, which is simply not the case. The regular Army is a bunch of clerks doing the same job in the Army that they did outside the Army, but not over here, and not for this outfit. The training is designed to break you, if you can be broken, and is amazingly tough. I ran 56 miles in 7 days with 65 pounds of equipment and a rifle on me. There is no real way to give you a conception of what that is like, but the only reason I'm not out on a hunter-killer strike like some of the students is that I have been effectively crippled for 2 or 3 weeks by the training, having worn the skin off of my feet so that now I'm hobbling around on bare muscle, which has become infected. Since it would be impossible for me to keep up the pace on a hunter-killer operation, they've given me a support role in a static defense position for a few days. And to date, that has been the extent of my activities in Vietnam. Yes, I do think our landing on the moon was quite an achievement, and internationalism be damned. I'm glad to see the stars and stripes up there first. It really gave me quite a thrill, and I sure as hell admire the courage of the men who went. I really sweated out the time between the landing and the takeoff once they were up there. I only hope man doesn't go off and louse up the rest of the solar system with his pollution and family quarrels like he has Mother Earth. The light is getting bad now, and for obvious reasons there'll be no light after dark. So I've got to sign off. I'll mail this when I get off the hill in 2 more days. If you've got time and want to, I'll let you write me, honest. All letters accepted cheerfully and answered when possible. When not possible to answer all letters, I'll answer in spirit. George. George Olson was killed in action on March 3rd, 1970. He was 23 years old. So, imagine getting letters like that when you are waiting to hear from someone, not knowing if it'll be the last time you ever hear from them. So, before I sign off of this next or most recent episode of Roaming History, I wanted to give you something to think about as you are probably getting ready to celebrate Christmas if you are someone that does celebrate Christmas, or perhaps you are going to have some time off of work, whether or not you celebrate. Spend some time with family. Spend some time with your loved ones. And think about some of these letters that I've shared with you today. So many wars had letters like this, and these are just a handful of them. And I wanted you to think about that when you hear I'll Be Home for Christmas. There was one last poem Major Michael Davis O'Donnell wrote January 1970, the same year that the Last Letters writer was killed in action. And I've always liked this. Michael O'Donnell was from Springfield, Illinois. He was a helicopter pilot assigned to the 52nd Aviation Battalion, 17th Aviation Group, 1st Aviation Brigade. And on March 24th, 1970, when he was attempting to rescue 8 soldiers, his chopper was shot down. He and his 3 crew members were declared missing in action. And in 1977, he was promoted to major. A year later, he was officially declared killed in action, and he was posthumously awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal, the Bronze Star, and the Purple Heart. This poem that he wrote about 2 months before he was killed in action, before his helicopter was shot down, is something that has always struck me as very powerful ever since the first time I saw it. It appeared at the end of the movie, the 1987 movie Hamburger Hill, and it's always struck me as very powerful, and I wanted to leave you with this poem. This is by Major Michael Davis O'Donnell, and he wrote this on New Year's Day, 1970. If you are able, save for them a place inside of you, and save one backward glance when you are leaving for the places they can no longer go. Be not ashamed to say that you loved them, though you may or may not have always. Take what they have left you and what they have taught you with their dying, and keep it with your own. And in that time, when men decide and feel safe to call war insane, take one moment to embrace those gentle heroes you left behind. I wish, for those of you that celebrate, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I look forward to chatting with you and doing more podcasts in the year 2025, if you can believe that. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, whether you celebrate or not. And please drop me a line sometime and tell me any topics you would like to see analyzed on roaming history. Nothing is really off limits. I'll always try to look into different topics all the time. But I originally was going to do a show on something else for this episode, and then I heard I'll Be Home for Christmas in the car, and I wanted to share some letters home from, in this case, Vietnam, even though that song came from World War II. So I wish you all a very happy new year, a wonderful start to 2025, and I will see you next time. Take care, historians.